Welcome to the 2010 Belmont Preview. This is a pregame.com podcast. I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo. I'm going to take a look at this year's Belmont. I'll break it down for you just as we did in the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. Our analysis was spot on for both of those two races. Let's see if we can do things again in the same fashion for the Belmont. Now, this year's Belmont lacks the excitement of a Triple Crown possibility, as we had two different winners in the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, so there will be no Triple Crown this year. Not only will there be no Triple Crown this year, there will not be the Kentucky Derby winner or the Preakness winner in this year's Belmont. So we've got a wide open field. We're going to take a look at the horses that have the possibilities of winning the race. I'll break down these horses for you, tell you my thoughts on each of what I feel are the four contenders in the race. First off, I want to say that with the Belmont, there is the myth, so to speak, that to win the Belmont, you have to be a stone-cold closer. Because it's a 1.5 mile distance, everybody believes that the closer is going to be the horse that wins the race. Now, there is some validity to that, but it is a myth. You do not want to be a stone-cold closer coming from way out of it, because so many times in the Belmont, because it is a 1.5 mile race, and if it is a race that lacks early speed, which is the case this year, what you get is soft fractions in the early going of the Belmont. People look at it this way: it's a 1.5 miles. They don't want the front end. When they do end up on the front end, they will slow it down if nobody's going to contest it. If you have a slow first half of the Belmont, it is going to make it virtually impossible for horses coming from way back to make up the needed ground. So with that said, the morning line favorite in the Belmont is Icebox. Now, Icebox was a horse that raced in the Kentucky Derby. It was a horse that we bet on in the Kentucky Derby. Although we did not win the Derby, he was a fast closing second in the race. We made a big score betting $100 across the board. Our place in show wager returned $960. $300 investment returned $960. So we had a nice score in the Kentucky Derby. But Icebox came from next to last. He was running 19th in the Kentucky Derby. There's 12 horses in the Belmont. If he is that far out of it in the Belmont and they have slow fractions, which I anticipate, he is going to have a major problem in making up all that ground. He will be flying at the end, but he may run out of racetrack. Even though the Belmont has a long stretch, what happens so many times is because they have big sweeping turns. Horses on the front end or close to the front end get a head start on the closers in that last turn. And even though there's a long stretch to run horses down, the head start that they get on the front end sometimes makes it too much to overcome. And I think Icebox is going to be a horse that has that type of problem on Saturday. He is definitely bred for this distance, and he has been training for this race. They skipped the Preakness, the shorter race, pointing towards the Belmont. Now, another horse that interests me is the stablemate of Icebox. Icebox is trained by Nick Zito. Nick Zito, as you know, won the Preakness, was the trainer on Icebox in the Derby. He had a horse in the Preakness that didn't fare well, but now he comes back with two horses in the Belmont, and Nick Zito has a very good shot with his other horse. The horse is number 5, Fly Down. Now, this is a horse that I'd like to term as what is called the now horse. This horse is coming off his best race of the year actually of his career. He's got his highest Beyer speed rating in the last race. It was the Grade 2 Stakes, the Dwyer, which was raced over this very same racetrack, the Belmont. So that gives this horse a tremendous leg up over a lot of the other horses in this field, as Fly Down is already raced on this track. Fly Down won the Dwyer by open lengths, 6.5 lengths. He won the race. Easy victory for Fly Down. This horse only has 5 lifetime starts, 3 wins and a third, 4 out of 5 on the board. This horse has every license to improve this week based on the limited starts. We really don't know how good Fly Down is. I would expect Fly Down to have another good performance, and his racing style is a little better than Icebox's. He's going to have a jump on Icebox, as he will be racing in that second tier of horses, and when they hit that last big sweeping turn, look for Fly Down to get himself in gear and try to have a head start on his stablemate Icebox, who will be closing late. Another horse that I feel has a strong shot in Saturday's Belmont, we're going to go to number 11, First Dude. Now, First Dude ran a monster race in the Preakness. He had the lead, turning for home. He fought off gamely, looking at Lucky in a classic stretch jewel, and looking at Lucky was able to put him away, get the victory. But what impressed me about First Dude is that he was able to hold on for second. So many times when a horse is finally passed in a race, after an extended battle like he had with Looking at Lucky, the horse will end up quitting and somebody else will pick him up from behind. Jackson Ben tried to pick him up from behind and just got photoed out in a head bob at the wire for the second place photo. So big effort from First Dude. It impressed me. He is a horse that probably is going to be on the front end on Saturday. And if he gets soft fractions because nobody else wants the lead, he could steal the Belmont. I do have to question 2 things. Can he get the 1.5 mile distance? And because of that big effort he had in the Preakness, did that take too much out of this horse coming back on just 3 weeks rest? That's the big question mark for First Dude, but he is definitely a contender on Saturday. The last horse I want to talk about for the Belmont on Saturday is a long shot. Morning line, we're seeing 10-1 on number 8, Game On Dude. Here is a horse from Bob Baffert. Bob Baffert won the Preakness with Looking at Lucky. He chose to keep Looking at Lucky out of this race, and he has brought Game On Dude to New York. This horse is another horse coming off a big win, as he ran in the Lone Star Derby back on May 8th and won the Lone Star Derby by 4.5 lengths. Note, this is only the 3rd start in Bob Baffert's barn. This horse was previously trained by another trainer. Bob Baffert took over the horse. First race back on April 24th. The horse raced poorly, but that was on a muddy track, and I'm going to throw that out. Bob Baffert come right back with him in his next start just 2 weeks later, and the horse answered in convincing fashion with that big win. This is another horse that I think will be close to the front end, and I think Bob Baffert's bringing this horse to New York for a reason. 10-1 shot, lightly raced, just 5 starts, looks to be getting better, and he's now in the Bob Baffert barn for the 3rd start. I look for a big improvement on Game On Dude on Saturday, number 8. So there you have our preview for the Belmont. I've got 4 horses that we're looking at. We are looking at Icebox, Fly Down. Fly Down is number 5, Icebox number 6, number 8, Game On Dude, and, of course, number 11, First Dude. One of those 4 horses will win the Preakness. I'll have my final selection, my official selection, available Saturday morning at pregamepros.com. Thanks for watching the Belmont. This has been a pregame.com podcast. I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo. Enjoy the race on Saturday.